By fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Welcome back to the Hogsty, DC's unofficial leading source for all things Redskins and the NFL. Brought to you by BigHeadsMedia.com and all our wonderful sponsors, including Manscaped. My name's Sean Conti. I've got Steve Thomas, Alex Zeese, and Jamal Forrest here with me tonight. We have a guest here to talk all the nitty-gritty details and statistics that you want to hear, so don't go away. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Support for the Hogsty comes from Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Ready or not, the holidays are here. Still struggling to come up with the perfect gift for that special someone in your life? The answer is Manscaped. The Manscaped Perfect Package 2.0 is the perfect gift this holiday season. It includes the Lawnmower 2.0 trimmer, the Crop Preserver anti-chafing deodorant, and the Crop Reviver toner spray, which is infused with cooling aloe vera to keep you from sweating, sticking, and smelling. Trust me, she will love the manly scent of these products. It even comes with a pair of Manscaped boxer briefs to keep you feeling fresh all day long. Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. Their new Lawnmower 2.0 has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to prevent nicks and snags, has a rechargeable battery, and it's waterproof so you can use it in the shower. Stop using the same trimmer down below that you use on your face. So what are you waiting for? Head over to manscaped.com now and get 20% off your order and free shipping by using the code BIGHEADS. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Promo code BIGHEADS.
And we're back. Our guest tonight is Nick Akridge. That's at PFF_Nick Akridge on Twitter. He's a DC sports fanatic and a full-time analyst and correspondent over at Pro Football Focus. He's here to discuss a little bit of the science behind PFF and maybe, just maybe, a little Redskins as well. So first things first, Nick, welcome to the show, man, and how are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Love to talk about all this stuff.
Absolutely. Well, we got lots of questions for you, man, but I think we'll start off, Josh, by asking you let me give you maybe a more general question, which is, can you tell us a little bit about PFF in general, sort of the science behind it, and who are the people behind PFF that are giving these ratings?
Yeah, so we've got multiple analysts. Not everybody is trained on the grading aspect, and I just started the training last summer. It's a giant, long process, and it takes time, a lot of time to master it, and I'm not even there yet. But it's basically on a -2 to +2 scale. We do that on every single play, and every single play is graded with that scale on a 0.5 basis. So, like your normal short, quick game pass that goes for first down, it's a 0.5. Stuff like that, and it'll get higher or lower based on how you're doing. And so, yeah, there's at least like 50 of us that grade games, and there's a huge review process that goes on for the people that have been doing this for years and years and years. And basically, they wanted to do it to kind of capture the things that, aren't really in the box score. So drop passes, dropped interceptions, fumbles that are recovered by the offense, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so Nick, this is Steve. It's no secret for the people who've listened to us and read what I've written that I've been a skeptic. You know that. So, but what I'd like you to do is...
I do.
First things first is, I know that you have the -2 to +2 grade. So how do we go from X number of analysts watching a game to an actual rating from 1 to 100? What is that process?
So at the end of the game, it's all kind of tallied up, +2 to -2 is tallied up. And then it goes through like a normalization process where there's just a ton of math involved. I wouldn't be able to explain to it because I don't know the whole math involved, but the math puts out that actual number that we see on the website. And that's all on social media and all that stuff.
Okay. Here's my sort of fundamental disagreement with my fundamental question. Let's go at it like that with these rankings. Is that what we're really doing here is we're taking somebody's subjective, several people's subjective evaluation of a game, and the subjective evaluations are being presented as an objective numerical grade, and I think it's fooling the public into thinking that somehow these grades have more credibility than they may have. And so what are your thoughts on that?
So we've always said that we're not going to get everything 100% right. The same way anybody watching a play isn't going to get it 100% right. We don't ever want anybody taking our grades and stats as like the definitive answer to any question, but it's a starting point, and it'll give you a shortcut to answers you might be looking for about the play. So, for example, your view and my view on one play might not be the same, but I can explain it in a way that we would grade it. So, for example, I've gone through many plays with other people before about all this stuff, and what we kind of find out is that we normally agree on a lot of these plays. So the bottom line is most plays are simple enough to decipher, so we can grade it.
Okay. Explain to us, I think what the other question a lot of people have is, who are these people? Are we talking about ex-NFL coaches? Are we talking about high school interns? Who are the people that are grading? What are their qualifications to be doing this?
Yeah, so we have a lot of people that have played former professional football. It's not just a bunch of people sitting behind a computer screen that have never played the game before. We've got a lot of people, and this whole process came from people that have played the game before. So it's not like some fans just making these sort of things up. I mean, we've had former NFL players, former NFL coaches go through our grades and agree with what we do. It's not just normal, regular people watching games.
Okay, fair enough. So the grades typically, from what I understand, is they come out within 24 hours of the games, which is admirable. To me, that means nobody's watching the coach's film. Maybe PFF has access to the coach's film that the public doesn't. So what film are you watching? And the reason why I ask that is I don't know how anybody could get a grade on every player based on the network broadcast.
Yeah, no, it is coach's film. We get access to that later on down the line. So it's all posted and reviewed with that film.
Even the initial grades.
The initial grades are done with broadcast and then reviewed. So pretty much anything we miss on the broadcast is done, reviewed with the coach's film.
I think one of the biggest problems I've always had with grades is I don't know how anybody could objectively grade a particularly offensive line when we, the general public, and you, the independent analyst, don't know the play call. We don't know the protection scheme at all. And so particularly, let's talk about offensive line in particular.
And let's be fair. We've heard this from multiple people who play offensive line, that they don't know how these grades are getting thrown out sometimes.
And so
and we've had a former offensive line coach. Can't remember his name. I think he was the former Browns offensive line coach. He'd gone through the grades with us, and he agreed or disagreed on like 4 total plays over thousands of plays. I mean, it's not an exact science. It never will be. That's how it is with film analysis. Everybody is going to have a different opinion on sort of thing. So when we're looking at an O-line play, we might not know all its protections, but at the same time, the other teams watching the film and trying to get a game plan together aren't going to know the protections either, but they're still evaluating their play. And that's what we're doing. We're evaluating play.
So if it's not an exact science, is there a statistical variance in the rankings that's published?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you do any statistical analysis of anything, there's a variance. And so if you're telling me that the ranking, which is fair enough, the rankings aren't intended to be an exact science, how inaccurate are they? Has somebody done an analysis so I can say if Eric Flowers says a 62.7, that's accurate within how much?
Well, I don't. So those you have to talk to our data scientist guys on. I'm not really, too into that part of it. But these grades are our viewpoint, so to speak, if that makes sense. It's not. What am I trying to say? So basically, like the whole argument is subjective, but all film analysis is subjective. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. That's my fundamental problem with this is it's subjective evaluations being turned into an objective number, and the public is taking these numbers as gospel. That's my problem.
Okay, but nobody, you don't have to take it as gospel. Like we said, I mean, I've said it multiple times. It's not gospel. It's not the Bible. It's a starting point, and it's a starting point for your own analysis of it.
So I just wanted to chime in right quick because I actually, it's gonna be quick actually. But I understand where you're coming from. This is Jamal, by the way. I understand where you're coming from. Essentially, it's actually like what any other person, even on Twitter, a lot of people in the Redskins realm of things, you see a lot of Redskins people putting out Twitter film clips, and they have their opinion on the player. And I understand what you're saying. What y'all are doing is y'all have a simple grading system, -2 to +2, and you guys have plenty of people that you guys vet and communicate and share the information with and get opinions on, and essentially formulate the grade and produce the grade. And then once you get coaches' film, and there's an adjusted grade, it may be slightly less or slightly more than the number that you guys initially produced after the game. So I understand it's a baseline that helps people understand how a player's played. Sometimes the only thing that gets into people's head is knowing that there are some people who, like, there's clear as they had a poor performance or had a good performance, and the number doesn't reflect it. But I wouldn't know how to necessarily dive into that, because I'm not the one, working for PFF. It just does sometimes it comes across as confusing, but I understand what you're saying is that it's just a baseline. And you don't have to take it with gospel.
So, and that's the thing with, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was pretty much done. Like, you don't have to take it as gospel, but basically you're saying, you can help with your analysis and understand how a player has been playing throughout the season or in a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and the thing with when people disagree with it, it's mostly because, again, they're not watching every single play to an extreme depth. So you'll see. So, for example, the Dwayne Haskins game this past Sunday, he went. What was it? It was like 11 for 18 or whatever, something like that. But the completion percentage is not there. But we graded him as 85.4, sorry, on the day. And his two of his three best throws were incompletions. And those don't show up. And so if you're not paying attention close enough to those games, you'll miss those. And you won't see it. So then you'll just see the box score. And you'll see that, you had a 50% completion percentage. Now you get like 300 yards to do a touchdown. And you'll say it's a bad game. So what we're trying to do is show you that the stats don't show everything. And you're going to miss some of these plays. And so when people disagree on social media, it's mostly because they're not watching it as in-depth, if that makes sense.
Well, so I understand what you're saying there, that, you're trying to give, a eyeball grade. But, I mean, data is data in sports, and, it always comes down to that final score, in the box score. So how are you guys really weighing hard stats like he threw for 175 yards in the end? And how are you weighing that versus the eyeball test? Like, what percentage are you giving to each? I guess that's the thing that always gets very complicated in this for a lot of fans.
So I just want to, make sure we're on the same page. So when we grade, it doesn't reflect on the box score. They're all done on a per play thing, so we don't really care what shows up on the box score, if that makes sense. Not to say that it doesn't matter, but so maybe, like I say, a 0 yard screen pass or a screen pass that goes for 54 yards, that's nothing for us because it's just a screen pass. He dumps it off, but that goes for 54 yards in the box score. Is that kind of what we're on the same page with? Does that make sense? What you're asking?
Well, it does, but I mean, if you're going to give Haskins, I think you gave him you guys gave him an 83 or something as your grade?
85.4.
85.4. Yeah. Okay. And compare that to his QB rating, which was 69 something, and then I don't even count the ESPN ratings because those things are garbage in my opinion. But
hey, we finally agree on something there.
well, oh yeah, I can't stand the ESPN.
Alex, I think I know what you're trying to say here.
Yeah.
So, for example, you have a stat called turnover-worthy throws. And so that's somebody looking at the screen and going that, and Keen Fahey does this too. We had Keen Fahey on a couple years ago. And so somebody will determine that is a turnover-worthy throw. And so that is a subjective evaluation. And so how is that – I think what Alex is saying is that somehow incorporated into an objective measurement, or does that just go into the -2 +2?
That's part of it.
We're mixing a subjective look and returning into an objective number, whereas being 13 for 25 or 147 yards is an objective measurement.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't tell the whole story, is what I'm trying to get at. So you see that, and you could kind of go, and that doesn't really show you how he actually plays.
So I'm assuming, for example,
basically our thing is we have turnover-worthy plays, and it's the worst grade we can give somebody. So it's a fumble, it's an interception, or it's a dropped interception where he completely misreads the coverage, goes right to the defender, and he drops it. That will show up in the box score. That's still a turnover-worthy play.
So,
so I think what you're saying, for example, then is like Haskins had the great sideline throw to Terry McLaurin that McLaurin let go right through his hands. So I'm assuming that would have been graded as a positive throw by Haskins because that's not his fault, correct?
Yeah, correct.
We had the great play where he rolled left, the great pass to Jeremy Sprinkle drops it. So that you're saying that you get a positive grade on that, even though it didn't show up on the stat line.
Correct.
Right, and I'm fine with that part of this whole concept. To me, to just put eyeball tests and say we're throwing all the numbers out the window, that's where I have an issue.
So,
no, I get that, and I grew up the same way. When you watch football, you fall in love with these box score numbers, and it was the same before I even joined PFF. I didn't really understand it all, but when you get into it and you really think about it, especially with these O-lines, because they don't have box score stuff. And that's why some people get so upset about these things, is because they'll see the big flashy plays by the edge defender who just bullies him, bull rushes him right to the quarterback, just runs it over. And they'll have that in their mind and say, oh, it's terrible. But in reality, that's just one play. It's one play of the 50, 60 plays he'll play that game. So that's what we're trying to
fair enough.
account for, if that makes sense.
All right. So one thing right quick, and I'll let it go. I don't even. It's not even a question. I just ask. I just ask of you, or if you can get the word to, I guess, the decision makers. I'm not sure how this whole thing goes, and I'm not sure if you even if you need a prescription for PFF. But I just say what can help, and that it should be discussed is a lot of these things can be solved with transparency. And there's nobody at fault when I say what I'm saying. I just say that I think a lot of people who have doubts can probably, they can probably get rid of them if there was like a transparency scale on social media platforms or in articles. So, like I said, if there's a subscription required, maybe you even have this already where you show like clips of what y'all graded. For example, a clip that.
And that's perfect. I was ready to bring that up. Because we put out a series of articles. One of our lead analysts put out a series of articles on how we grade things. Okay. And it has clips on how we grade quarterback play, running back, receivers, run blocking, pass blocking, all of that stuff. I can send you guys that. I can send it to you right now, actually.
Sure, please do.
And it's not behind a paywall or anything. So, I've sent it to multiple people before. I'm sending it on Twitter now.
One last thing, and I think this will be quick. So, in terms of process, how many people are grading each game? Like, how many Redskins analysts are there, and do they specialize in one particular area?
So we're not assigned to a team, so it's not like a Redskins analyst, if that makes sense. But there's about 5 people reviewing games. They're not reviewing, but doing the games and then reviewing them afterwards. And we do have people specifically assigned to review games, like a specific part of the game, like pass rush, pass protection, that sort of stuff.
Okay, so there's you have 5 people reviewing the games, and then everybody has a different area of the game to watch.
Yeah. So, for example, we have one of our newer analysts, Bruce Gradkowski, former NFL quarterback. He does the final review on quarterback plays.
Okay, that's
so we have him going through
he
that.
was the guy doing it for that.
Yeah, and we had Zach Robinson, who's now he was quarterback at Oklahoma State for a while, had a stint in the NFL, and now he's quarterback's coach for the Rams. He did all that stuff with us last year. So we have these former NFL, former college players in our system helping us.
Interesting. And listen, we appreciate you coming on because you knew you were walking into a show.
Oh yeah, I get it all the time, man.
You knew that we were skeptical, and so I respect the fact that you certainly that you came on and talked to us.
No, I mean I really appreciate you guys having me on. I think it's better for everybody if we kind of all have like a clear understanding of everything.
Well, I think we got a quick game to discuss. We can get your opinion on a few things if you got some time. Because we don't want to just have you on here just to argue about.
I got nothing but time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing but time. I could sit here and talk football forever if you guys need it.
Well, you want to just do our Packers preview with us?
Let's do it.
Really? Go for it.
All right.
I'll give you some.
Awesome.
Some grades
Well,
that you
let's
guys
ask you, man. I mean, it's not every day we have a statistical genius on the show with us. So, what can you tell us? Are there any signs of hope you're seeing in the numbers ahead of this matchup? As far as we're concerned, this is almost a lost cause, man.
I wouldn't say it was a lost
I'm
cause.
gonna have to agree with you guys.
Speak for me.
I mean, we did release an
sorry.
article today saying the Redskins have a 0.1% chance of winning the division, so there's some hope there.
I mean, that's higher than I thought
Until
it would
that
be.
thing gets zero, then I guess we have a shot, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, look. So go ahead, Sean.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, maybe we can go back to the topic of Haskins first. You've done some analysis on Haskins, obviously, to this point. We've got a couple full games now under our belt where we've seen Haskins as the starter. What are you seeing from him? What are the biggest downsides now, and what is he doing well to this point?
I would say, so first off, he was thrown into the fire when he was brought off the bench. For those two games, I've kind of course it's part of the evaluation process, but they're kind of more in the back of my mind. I kind of like watching him when he's got a full week of work and he's a starter and he knows he's a starter and he's going into it. And when he's been that, he's been pretty good. I mean, last week was by far his best week. He's been unlucky with his teammates dropping passes, but for the most part, my favorite thing about him is just he's keeping care of the ball. Like he's been playing it somewhat too safe, but at the same time, he's not turning the ball over. That's my favorite part.
Well, and I think that's a fair point. The thing that I've been noticing more and more is each week the criticisms I've had, which have been footwork mechanics in his first start, his arm mechanics being off, those are getting better each week. I was watching some of last week's film again, and I didn't see his arm do like that weird thing it's been doing the first couple weeks at all. His throwing motion.
Are you talking about where he kind of like drops the arm angle down?
Where he drops the arm and his elbow goes out. Yeah.
Okay, so here's some of my thoughts on this game. The Redskins have a chance to win this game. The Packers' defense, statistically, their numbers aren't nearly as great as you might think. They've given up a lot of rushing yards. They've given up a lot of rushing yards per attempt. They've given up a ton
weak
of yards.
in the middle. That's what I notice.
What's that?
Not very good in the middle of the.
No, they're not. They're not. And there's been 3 or 4 teams that have run all over them. And we're by the way, we're going to the frozen tundra. It's going to be the high of 40 in Green Bay, Wisconsin on Sunday.
That's called summer up there.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's freaking cold, man. And so I think this is another one of these games. It's a Bill Callahan type of game, And the other thing is, what's the best defense against Aaron Rodgers? Not let him on the field, right? And so the Redskins need to take their last in the NFL time of possession and get some first downs on third down, convert some of those, rush the ball very well for the second week in a row. That's how to beat the Green Bay Packers. Because if you get in a shooting match with Aaron Rodgers, that's a loss. Yeah.
No kidding. I agree with you completely. Nick, what do you think the chances are we get a repeat performance from our running backs this week? Because I think that's going to be the key against Green Bay. Can we see a performance like that again? 200? What was it, Steve? 220 some yards or something?
Well, I mean, I
248.
Bill Callahan's going to try. He's going to try his hardest to do that again. I mean, that's what he loves to do. He loves throwing the ball, physical football, that stuff. I mean, they got Kenny Clark. He's a monster in the middle, but outside of that, they don't have much on the interior defensive line.
Even the pathetic New York Giants ran pretty well against them. So I think the Redskins can run against this team. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
This is not the Packers of old.
No,
this
not
is
on defense.
They're 9-3 or whatever. Granted, but I think this is a team that the Redskins kind of match up well against, at least from an offense to defense perspective. We'll get to the defense as another
careful,
story.
Because the Packers defense ain't been the Packers defense for a long time. So this is kind of this familiar Packers team. I think one of the things that actually is important is just trying to. Well, I guess we'll get further into it, but it's just trying to stay into good down and distances, because the pass rush is no joke. That's for sure. And you're going to get into a lot of trouble with this offensive line. I think Haskins is getting a little bit better, but it's not like there completely yet when he drops back and making the right decisions. He can get himself into some trouble, but just in general, the pass protection and the passing game is going to be something that needs to be, executed well, from a both pass blocking and quarterback perspective.
Well, yeah, Nick, everybody knows our old friend Preston Smith happens to be their sack leader.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about Preston Smith. Have you had a chance to watch him this year?
I haven't. Well, I've seen highlights and stuff. I haven't been able to watch him in depth like I would want to. But from the very start of the season, what I've seen is he's been a lot better than what he was over here. And I don't know if that's like a scheme sort of thing or whatnot. But yeah, his sack numbers are definitely up. And I'm trying to find his grade real quick if I can, because you guys love that stuff.
Well, while he's
Steve loves it.
Love it. Okay, well, while you're looking it up, so let's talk about a few other numbers. While we're doing this here. So I already went over the rush numbers from a passing perspective. They're a little bit better against the pass. I mean, statistically, the results they produce: average quarterback rating, 87.6. Not that that's fairly low for an NFL team.
Right. We're usually in the triple digits on our teams.
Well, yeah, that's him. So and again, we're talking about Green Bay in December.
Right.
So I don't think this is going to be a pass-heavy game. That's not what you'd want to do against them. All signs point to this is a Bill Callahan game. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this team has got the lowest – I had to throw this out there. It's a little bit random. The lowest average punt return I've ever seen in the 5 years we've been doing this. They have a minus 0.9 yards per return, which is
all right, so good game for
last in
the
NFL and the worst I've ever seen.
On the passing game, first, Nick, you said you'd found your stat for Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so right now he's at a 67.9 overall grade and then a 76.4 pass rush grade. The pass rush grade is the highest it's been in his career. So that kind of tells you how it is. He got 42 pressures right now. He had 53 last year, which was his career high by far. But the 42 he's got now is higher than 2017, 16, and 15. So.
Yeah,
and a lot better.
And I know he's in double-digit sack numbers on the raw number side.
10.5.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And the one thing that, again, just watching tape of the Packers play, I do notice their passing game, they don't give up a lot deep, but it does look like you can kind of attack them with a lot of short passes, dink and dunk down the field. They'll give you the underneath stuff all day long. In the passing game, which could be good for a guy like Chris Thompson on the Redskins, who's just going to sit in the flats most of every game anyway. And, he'll pick up 5-10 yards here and there. I don't know if this is a good game for our receivers to get going, though, in that case.
Alex, so who has played Terry McLaurin well all year? Nobody. Basically
he only had, one catch last week or two.
Yeah, but whose fault was that? Was that
his,
McLaurin's
partly.
fault?
Well, how many targets did he have? I don't even know.
Oh gosh, I'd have to pull that up.
He had one or two that he definitely missed, like that one big catch.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah. I guess my point is there hasn't really been a DB all year, I think, that has really held Terry McLaurin in check, and I don't think it's going to be the Packers DBs.
No, and I think they play a lot more zone, which you can always find holes in.
Right.
Yeah, still pound it on the ground. Pound it on the ground. I think that's the mantra here. Any other stuff on offense before we move on? I want to ask Nick some questions on defense, but I don't want to jump ahead of you guys if you want to talk offensive
I think
stuff.
we gave you the game plan here. The game plan is against the Packers in particular, run the ball a lot, and run the ball effectively. Mm-hmm. Keep Aaron Rodgers off the field, actually get some time of possession, get some long drives. Do not get in a shootout with this guy.
So basically,
and I don't think
let Bill Callahan call the plays.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, let it go.
1980s football.
Well, okay. Yeah, amen. Bringing it back. Well, speaking of play calling, I want to ask you on the defensive side of things. We saw a lot of production this past game out of guys that came out of nowhere, it seemed. Odom and Orchard, they came off the street and immediately were getting sacks. So what can you tell us about that? Are you seeing scheme changes that lead to this? I mean, you take it from here. What are you seeing that could lead to that?
Honestly, it's just so Montez Sweat had his best game by far. I mean, when he was lined up on the right side, he was doing less than nothing. He finished with, this week he finished with an 82.5 overall grade, 79.7 pass rush grade, by far the highest of his career. I don't know exactly what it is. He was getting pretty lucky. I think went up with Olsen twice, got the best of him. But no, I don't know exactly how it all changed, but it was pretty impressive to see.
Yeah, it seems like a total turnaround. I mean, it was what we have expected the Alabama defense to be this whole time, and now here it is. And none of those guys, it was Ioannidis, Odom, and Orchard. None of those guys played at Alabama. Mm-hmm. Suddenly they're coming on the field, and this the defense is working as designed. So, I mean, it sounds like you're saying you're not really seeing scheme changes. You're just seeing better execution. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, Ioannidis has done what he's been doing all year, and pretty much for his career, just kind of underrated, getting those pressures, all that stuff. Sweat had, like I said, the best game of his career. Orchard came out of absolutely nowhere and had a great game. So, I think
did Orchard have enough snaps to get a grade?
Yeah, he had a 77.2 overall grade, 71.4 pass rush grade, 6 total pressures. It's pretty impressive stuff.
Because I don't think we probably didn't do Nate Orchard enough justice on our post-game show because we were so shocked that he did anything. But this dude truly did come straight off the street. I mean, he was a street free agent, and all of a sudden he's in there, knocking heads.
Well, was he the one or the other guy, the one that was like literally putting Odom? One of them was like putting windows in houses, and then got a call from his agent as he was like putting a window in a house.
He was the proudest recipient of my game ball. I'm sure he's got it mounted on his wall.
Right.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Go ahead, Steve. If you had another question about, I was going to ask about secondary. Go ahead. All right, fine. Okay. Secondary-wise, that has been a problem for most of the season as well. With Josh Norman out, things looked a little bit better. I'm sure you would agree, Nick. But this is quite an ask of the secondary this week against Aaron Rodgers. What would you say the best strategy to go with is this week? Is it really just hit him in the trenches up front, or is there another strategy here?
Yeah, so Aaron Rodgers loves, when he gets in any pressure, he loves to just throw the ball away. That's kind of his go-to. I think last year, I think we charted him with the most throwaways we've ever seen. Pressure is definitely key. Quentin Dunbar has been locked down. We love him here at PFF. He's been extremely locked down all year, but it's everybody else. It's kind of been the problem. I mean, Josh Norman's our lowest graded player on the Redskins this year, and Fabian Moreau hasn't.
That's crazy.
He's had these picks, but he's also been getting forced every now and again as well. So we definitely need a secondary guy to Quentin Dunbar because he's been doing it all for us.
Well, okay, so let's stop right there. Fabian Moreau has been pretty much atrocious all year. I've had very little good things to say about him, but this was the first day game last week that he started at the outside corner position. Second. I actually thought he was – sorry, you're right, second. I think he's been a lot better on the outside than he ever was in the slot. That's the eye test. So what is the PFF test for Moreau being now an outside corner?
Yeah, so the past week 12 against the Lions was his best grade of the year, 88.4 coverage grade, 78.7 overall grade. This past week it was 60.5. Not the best, but, I mean, we saw the play where he got torched, tripped, and then it was overthrown. He's got these interceptions, but he's been not too good. Like you said, he's been playing a lot of slot. He moved out. I think the Yeah, week 12 is when he moved out the left cornerback where we have him the most. Now it's 78.7 and an 88.4 coverage rate.
Okay,
I mean, I think the slot has been a struggle for him, for sure.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. He never played it, and there's no doubt he's not good in that. Well, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers here. Obviously, the guy's going to the Hall of Fame. He's kind of famous for scrambling a lot all around. He makes a lot of throws, a lot of weird angles, has incredible arm strength. He does throw the ball away a lot. I'm not sure this is really the game where I would blitz him relentlessly, necessarily, because he also can pick you apart, in coverage. He's really good at that. And so I'm not sure that this is really the game for Greg Minuski to do what he did last week and do a bunch of what was for him, at least, exotic blitzes. I think this is the game that the secondary, guys like John Bostic, these linebackers really need to focus on maintaining their discipline, playing the scheme correctly, playing good coverage to not give him those opportunities. He's going to take shots anyway because he's Aaron Rodgers. But I think probably this week the coverage is more important than doing things like blitzing corners.
Yeah, and just
some of our linebackers they've struggled in coverage for sure. I mean, Cole Holcomb has been pretty dreadful in coverage.
Well, they're going to have their hands full with the running game because Green Bay's got Aaron Jones is over 1,000 yards already. Jamal Williams has another 600 or something. Like their running backs, and that's combined, I think, receiving and rushing. Their running backs are responsible for a lot of this offense these days. So,
it just gets better and better. Rosy outlook.
So it was just a little quick statement because you guys already spoke on it anyway. I think the bigger, just the overall grand scheme of things. The last 2 weeks you were facing, on both sides of the ball, you were facing lesser talented teams, but specifically on offense, you weren't facing a quarterback with the cerebral capabilities. No offense to the quarterbacks that the Lions put on the field, and
you can offend them. They're nobodies.
I respect it. I still respect the intelligence to be in the NFL, but they're just not on the level of Aaron Rodgers, and we know that. But I say that to say you're going up against a capable offense with a capable quarterback, with the offensive line and running game that can keep this defense off balance. And then all you need is Devontae Adams. You're going to have Fabian he's going to be tested, and then you're going to have Quentin Dunbar who's going to be tested. And it don't matter the type of coverage. You can have perfect coverage. Aaron Rodgers knows how to throw receivers open. And he's done that on a week in and week out basis throughout his career. I don't know what specifically he's doing this year, but it's just as simple as you're going to get the biggest test out of the last couple of weeks. So you'll see where they're really at, as opposed to just seeing them get 2 good wins just to, make up for a lost season, if that makes sense. So they'll get a test. A lot of people are trying to, buy back in or at least be happy towards the end of the season. But, you'll see exactly where they're at, and if the last 2 weeks was just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah,
Right.
I know we got to get to game predictions, and Nick, you're going to get to do a game prediction with us here at the end of it. But real quick, I don't really have as much faith in the Packers' run game as you do, Alex. I really don't. I mean, first of all, Jones has 645 yards on the year. He's only averaging 4.1 yards per attempt.
Yeah, but what's his receiving yards?
Receiving yards, 367. I mean,
right, that's 1,000 yards.
I understand that. I wasn't debating your yards from scrimmage bit. I don't, we're not talking about Barry Sanders here, okay? And, as a whole on the offense, they're, 21st rushing yards per attempt, 19th in total rushing yards. It's a much more rushing-based offense than we've ever seen from Aaron Rodgers, and the reason is that when Aaron fired Mike McCarthy, they got a running game, basically. And so I know what you're saying, Alex, but all the same, I don't think we're facing, like, the 49ers. That's my point.
No, I wasn't saying it was a run game. I was saying the running backs are where this offense comes through.
That and Devontae Adams.
Yeah. Well, yes, Devontae Adams, too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's a good point counterpoint. I like that. I love seeing that on the show. All right, well, awesome. Let's get to it then. Steve kind of spoiled it, Nick. You get to, if you'll indulge us, you get to do a score prediction with the Hogsty, and you get to be wrong with us as we are wrong
Yes,
every
I don't
week.
think anyone's
So
ever predicted
welcome
a correct
aboard,
score
my
maybe
friend.
once in 5 years.
All right, I'll change that.
Yeah,
So,
never happened. There you go. I like the confidence.
I'm
Okay,
going,
well, you wanna lead us off?
Go ahead.
I'm going
Go ahead, Nick. You go
38-17
first.
Packers.
38-17. Okay.
That's terrifyingly believable. I could see that easily happening. Okay, shoot, you made it sound easy there. You just went right out with it and put it in stone. I will join you then. I think it's going to be pretty damn bad. Let's put it at. You know what? It's not. Let's put it at 30.
30-10.
Packers.
You know, for me, I'll go next. The Redskins always seem to have one game a year where they win a game where they really shouldn't. And they've done it They've done it to the Packers. But
That's right. Super Bowl winning years.
This probably isn't that week though, unfortunately.
Okay, I like this setup. Took a page out of
I'd love to be able to
Well,
say
you got to remember the Redskins are playing for division title here.
they are. All they need to do is win
right.
every game and
That's
have
right.
every other team lose every game, and they're going to be the division champs. They're playing for their
Peace,
playoff
Kate.
lives here, folks. No, but they do tend to play up every once in a while. But that having been said, I don't think it's going to happen in Green Bay. So I think this is going to be something along the lines of 28-14 type of game. Packers.
Well,
I could see
I'll
it.
go ahead and say that the Redskins will lose as well. I don't think. So what I do believe is that the first half is going to be closer than people would imagine, but I don't think they'll be able to hang in there with the Packers at the end of it. It's kind of actually crazy because the last couple of games the Redskins have played their best football in the fourth quarter of the games, but I think this one is going to be kind of opposite. Like they'll have some momentum coming into this game and they'll play hard, but like the talent differential and experience factor is going to outweigh what the Redskins are doing, and I don't think it's going to be close. They'll probably pull away something like 27 to 17, maybe, or maybe 27-14, something like that. But definitely double digits.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to close this out here, and I think it's a
Awesome.
sweep that we all think the Packers are going to win this one. We've been riding high after 2 wins. I think last week was that unexpected victory that Steve was talking about, where we beat a team we probably shouldn't have.
Yeah, that was my thought.
True.
That was
And
probably last week.
yeah, so here's what's going to happen, guys. We're going to get our asses handed to us royally. This is going to be like a 45-10 shellacking.
Yeah, I can see it. I'm with you, Alex. I think you got the
Real
right
quick
spirit.
on injuries, real fast. Let me go over it super fast. The DNPs on Wednesday were Trey Quinn, who has the concussion, Paul Richardson, DNP hamstring. Everybody else is practicing. Ryan Kerrigan is apparently out of concussion protocol.
Yay.
He's fully practicing. That's good. On the Packers side, Jimmy Graham, DNP, Ryan Grant, the wide receiver, DNP, and that's really about it. Brian Bulaga's limping around, but he'll play. So injuries probably won't not be too much of a factor.
Awesome. Okay. Good update. We will see you guys again after the game. Hopefully we have some good news. Most likely not, according to everyone's predictions here, but we can dream. Nick, thank you so much for being with us tonight and being with us so long. We kept you way longer than we said we would. But that's Nick Akridge of Pro Football Focus. And again, that's at PFF_Nick Akridge on Twitter. Nick, thanks so much, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. I know I kind of walked into a thunderstorm in here, but I really appreciate it. Again,
Yeah.
I don't mind talking football ever. So
Hell yeah,
Hopefully
man.
it's
You
more
handled
like
it well.
a gentle
Awesome.
summer rain after your...
There you go. All right, beautiful. Well, we will see you all next time right here on the Hogsty. Take care.
The Seasons of Discontent is a podcast about Washington sports and life in the nation's capital. Hosted by Washington Post-Express columnist Rick Snyder and sports fan Matt, the 1 hour show also talks about beer, pizza, movies, and the sights of our nation's capital. Come listen to Seasons of Discontent.